I'm so delighted today to be doing a deep dive review of this book here, A Heart of Frost and Scars by Pam Godwin. I was really fortunate enough to get an ARC copy of this book, so had a couple of weeks to read it before the release date, which was the 26th of August, and I absolutely love this one, rated it 5 stars. So what I wanted to do today was do a deep dive review on this one, mainly because I kind of vlogged or did a deep dive review of the first 2 books in this series, and so I wanted to kind of finish off the trilogy, as it were, by doing a deep dive of this one as well. What I will do though to start with is do a very quick summary of books 1 and 2, and I also want to do a disclaimer in this one as well, and that is I will be sharing some spoilers in here and giving you some thoughts, which will also mean that it will give away some things that happened in books 1 and 2. Now, if you haven't read this trilogy yet and you don't want to hear any spoilers, then I highly recommend you stop this video now, go away and read the trilogy and then come back to hear what I have to say. But if you're the sort of person that kind of likes to know what happens, especially in a dark romance, you're not sure if you want to read something, then by all means keep watching. But please bear in mind there will be some spoilers in here. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil everything by any means, but it'll be very hard for me to talk about this book without at least giving some things away that happens in books 1 and 2. So just be aware of that. Okay, so what I will do though is just very quickly summarise books 1 and 2 just to set the scene. So the first book in this trilogy is Hills of Shivers and Shadows, and it's in this book we are introduced to several characters that are going to be instrumental throughout this whole trilogy. We start off with Frankie and Monty. So Frankie and Monty are a married couple. Frankie has just found out she is pregnant and Monty is not happy about this because he doesn't want children. He reacts very badly when she tells him and he kind of storms out of the house. Now she's really upset by what he has said, and she is going, you know, and she really wants to discuss it in more length, but she's also knows that she wants to keep the baby, and if Monty doesn't want to have it with her, she is absolutely prepared to leave him and go and bring up the baby on her own. Now, before they can end up having this discussion, Frankie is actually kidnapped by a man called Denver and drugged and basically transported to a very remote location in the very northern parts of Alaska. It's very isolated, very cold. The only way in and out is on Denver's plane, and he's the only one that can fly it. And so everyone who lives in this place is completely dependent on Denver, and Denver is not a nice man at all. And actually the people that live there are Denver's 3 sons, Leo, Cody and Wolf, and they are not too happy when he brings Frankie to their home, and are not particularly nice to her to start with. And basically what this book is essentially about is us trying to figure out who Denver is, why he's taken Frankie, who the sons are, how they're all connected, what they actually want from Frankie, why is she even there, and start to ask a lot of questions. So we get an awful lot of questions that we desperately want answers to in this book. What we do discover is that Leo, Cody and Wolfson are also in Alaska against their will, and very much at the mercy of Denver, but they have been raised, born and bred here, essentially raised in this place. They are all wild men in their own way, extremely traumatized, but very kind of feral, wild men who are used to hunting to survive, living off the land, you know, and doing what they can. Now, Denver is an extremely intelligent man, and as a result he's educated his sons extremely well, so they are very knowledgeable, but what he's withheld from them is you know, how to fly a plane and also how to repair kind of like the generator and stuff around this property, because he absolutely wants them to be completely reliant on him. Of course, the ultimate goal for Frankie is that she figures out a way to get out of this place, to escape her captors. And what I loved about her personality in particular is the fact that she is not hot-headed. She doesn't put herself in unnecessary danger. Once she figures out what's going on, she is very cautious, meticulous, takes notes, really starts to figure things out and try and work out a way that they can basically get out of this place. And so obviously this ends on a really big cliffhanger. We're left with a lot of questions, And at the end of this book, we are left with Frankie, Cody and Leo, and they are kind of now in a situation where they have been left in Alaska with, you know, with hardly any food and no way to escape. And this is how this book ends. If you want to know more, go and watch my deep dive kind of vlog of this one. And I'll put a link to those in the description box down below. Then we get to Cage of Ice and Echoes book 2. This absolutely starts immediately after book 1 finishes, and this is now, like I say, where Frankie, Cody and Leo are trying to unravel the clues, learn how to fly a plane, figure out how they're going to survive the winter with very, very little food. And this one very much becomes a tale of survival. How are they going to survive in this very, very cold and desolate place? They face a lot of perils and pitfalls. They have to go on very strenuous journeys. You know, they put themselves in a grave danger, but ultimately through this they start to forge this relationship between the three of them that is completely steadfast, rock solid. They will do anything for each other, and Frankie becomes the centre of Leo and Cody's world, and she is the most precious thing to them in the whole world, so they will literally sacrifice themselves to ensure her survival. But they work together as a team to figure a way how to get out of this place and how they're going to survive the winter. Now it's very, very challenging, very, very difficult to read. Like I say, they experience some very difficult things, but they do finally make their way out of this place, back to civilization, and we get a lot of answers to the questions that we had from book 1. The thing is, we get some new questions as well, and this is where we start with book 3, which is what I really want to talk about today, Heart of Frost and Scars. It is a beast of a book, and it absolutely had to be a beast of a book because they've got so many things to figure out and work through as they return back, like I say, to civilization. Now, when they get back to so-called civilization, obviously we are going to be in a situation where we need to see Monty again. And remember, Monty is Frankie's husband. Now, Monty is extremely wealthy. He's sort of a billionaire, and he's expended an awful lot of resources trying to find where Frankie has gone, because when she first disappeared, he first thought that maybe she left him because of their argument about the baby. But there's no way someone like her could have disappeared literally off the face of the earth with Monty not being able to find her with all of the access to all of the resources that he has. So he starts to fear for the worst, and as we go through this story we start to figure out that Monty is very much connected to Denver, Cody, Leo and Wolf, and we figure out what that connection is, kind of what's happened, why Monty was so anti having children in the first place. So when finally Monty figures out where she is, they get out and they kind of reunite, as it were. Monty is desperate to see his wife again. He's obviously madly in love with her and wants to be with her, but now of course he's faced with this terrible truth that his wife has figured out some things for herself as well, that unwittingly Monty has broken her heart and she has turned to the comfort of 2 other men, Leo and Cody. And now Monty is like, doesn't want to share his wife with 2 other men, but Frankie doesn't want to let him back in either, and she's made a vow with Leo and Cody that she is, you know, is theirs, that she's in love with them and she's not going to go back to her husband. And so straight away we have this conflict between these people where, like I say, Monty is desperate to get his wife back, is extremely jealous of her relationship with the other 2 men, and they are extremely protective of Frankie and don't trust Monty at all. And, you know, how are they going to resolve some of their issues so that they can work together to figure out the remaining answers to the questions that we've got? Because what we find out is that Frankie has a stalker, and this stalker is potentially more dangerous than Denver could ever have been in the first place. And so they really, really need to work together to save Frankie. And again, this is where Frankie becomes the centre of their world. She is the anchor that pulls them all together because they each love Frankie with everything in them. She is their whole world and more. They'll do anything for her, sacrifice themselves, whatever. And so really she is the driving force. So they just need to keep her safe. And this is really what ensures that they will agree to work together no matter the conflicts between them as people. So this is one sort of big part of the storyline, is their relationship. How's it going to develop? How's it going to work? Another big part of this is their trauma, their PTSD. They've been through a lot, right? And so Frankie is determined that they all seek professional help and speak to, you know, a psychiatrist, a therapist in some way. And so this is another big element of the story which I really, really did like, because actually these people have been through a lot. They could not really live happily unless they've figured out some of their, you know, figured out some of their past, worked through some of their pain, and also figured out a way to, you know, live in society again, particularly for Leo and Cody, because they've never lived in civilization. Like I said, they're wild men. Leo is kind of described as the barbarian almost, and Cody is like the caveman, because they are literally feral, and as a result they struggle to, you know, keep their anger in check, to keep their possessive tendencies in check. And if anyone even looks at Frankie the wrong way, they are, you know, go for it, but in you know, a very physical, violent sort of way, and that is going to get them into trouble, because, you know, if they get into a fight with someone, they're going to be arrested, they're going to be detained, and, you know, then they're going to be separated from Frankie. So they need to figure out their anger issues so that that basically doesn't happen. So there are two elements to this. One, their relationships with the four of them, the therapy that they need to go through in order to live. Also, Monty here is kind of like, you know, now has extra people in his family, and like I say, he's a billionaire, so he really, really wants to support Leo and Cody to have something to focus on other than Frankie, and so he really helps them to set up their businesses as well, and they have kind of like dreams, you know, of what they want to do. And it's really, really nice to see how, you know, Monty develops a separate relationship with them as men, separately from their relationship as like a foursome, as it were, and how they are with Frankie. And he kind of agrees to, you know, one, have a relationship with them as a brother, but then treat them separately as Frankie's husband. And so it was really, really nice to see their relationship as well, and how they kind of forged that and kind of like refound their family, as it were, and their place in the family together. Of course, then the other big story thread running through this one is the suspenseful element. So we find out at the end of book 2 that Frankie actually has a stalker separate to Denver, and this stalker starts to really up the ante. So when Frankie finally comes back, this stalker kind of like comes back with a vengeance as well. So there's some very kind of like suspenseful moments in here, almost bordering on horror, I would say. It's not massively scary, so it's not scary, but there are some very uncomfortable things that happen. The great thing about this is, as I was reading it, I knew someone was stalking her, right? We knew it must have been someone that we'd known in books 1, right at the start. So it's someone from Frankie's life, and we have lots of options. And this is what I loved about this one, because I was paranoid throughout. So this book made me completely paranoid. I didn't trust anyone. Anyone could have been a suspect. But the creepy thing was that I had a list of suspects in my head. I had at least 5 possibilities, 5 theories that I was working on, and slowly and surely the stalker was knocking off all my theories, because one by one some of the people I thought might have been the stalker ended up unalived, shall we say, and body parts were being sent to Frankie almost as gifts from her stalker. And so it was kind of like, slowly but surely the list was whittled down until the only person it could possibly be was the person who was stalking. And by this time, you know, we're quite far into the book, and things really start to kick off. But I really, really loved that suspenseful element, like, who is it? How are we going to figure it out? Who are these people? And this constant sense of paranoia, that you just didn't trust anyone, I thought was brilliantly done, brilliantly written. And also, you know, Pam's mind is absolutely amazing. You know, the clues that she's weaved throughout, the puzzle pieces that came together, I thought were absolutely fantastic. So again, I loved that element of the story as well. So I think that's all I'm going to say, because if I say any more, I think I have revealed some spoilers already, but if I say any more, I think it will be too spoilery. Only suffice it to state that the end is extremely horrifying. It is macabre, shall we say. It was very uncomfortable to read, but I had every faith that there would be a HEA in here, and I thought how this wrapped up, how it concluded, the final reveals, finally figuring out everything out, and then these people getting their HEA was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. It was such an emotional journey to go on with these books. Very, very chunky reads, so you know, a great investment in time to get through these, but I would absolutely say worth every single second. Pam is absolutely amazing, and I also saw on her Instagram that, you know, she poured her heart and soul into this to the point where, you know, she said that she's a method writer, so she kind of puts herself almost through some of the things that the characters put themselves through in order to really kind of understand and get into the psyche and kind of really deliver a real kind of like written piece of, you know, of literature that really kind of like resonates and feels real. And I think she did an absolutely fantastic job of that. So I really hope Pam takes the time to rest and recover. She's done an absolutely amazing job, and I absolutely loved every moment of this, even though it made me very uncomfortable at times, very concerned for our characters, but ultimately knowing we would get a HEA. So that is what I clung to. I clung to the knowledge that these people would get their HEA, and that's what I'd ask you to do. If you want to pick these up and read them, if you haven't yet, do so. I know that you're going to go on a very emotional, challenging ride, but that it's worth every single word on every single page. Nothing is wasted, and just cling to the knowledge that it will all work out in the end. So there you go, that is my deep dive review and thoughts about Heart of Frost and Scars. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Monty has absolutely no idea, you know. So, like I say, there will be some spoilers in here. I won't spoil absolutely everything. I will keep some things. So if you haven't read this trilogy yet, I would highly recommend you stop the video now, go away, read books 1 and 2. Stop the video now, go away and read books 1 and 2 and 3, and then come back, and then hopefully. Okay, so Heart of Frost and Scars. I was very fortunate enough to get an art copy of this book, so read it before its release day, and it came out just last week. When did it come out? I was really fortunate enough to get an